If a major war breaks out between Russia and NATO, it will be raining nuclear fallout, not just blood. From a lacerated sky, bleeding its horror, draining our structure. Now I will rain blood. And I guess a lot of you love the spirit of Joseph Mengele out there, and you want to have a war with Russia. Russia doesn't teach their kids 2 + 2 = 5, or that Heather has 2 mommies. Russia promotes men and women getting married and having children and not reducing their population. The truth is, Russia has started to break away from the larger eugenics-based New World Order into a strongman nationalism that is brutish and ancient, but compared to the New World Order, would be preferable. That's all I'm saying. And the West started this. If you disagree with me, go ahead and call in. I think that it's a little bit of both. I think this is overall hype to get a larger escalation against the Russians, because using advisors with former Russian military that lives in Ukraine, they are beating the NATO, CIA, mercenary forces in the mainly Russian ethnic areas. So there is a major proxy war with Russia on their doorstep. We know that's going on. Did they blow up an armored column 2 weeks ago? Turned out that wasn't true. So you can't believe a word comes out of the elected president of Ukraine. Again, the first one they installed earlier this year was not elected in the NATO coup. So NATO's caused a coup trying to steal the Russian infrastructure, the Russian pipelines, the Russian bases. They're not putting up with it. And so the bankers, the John Corzine type people that make 40-to-1 bets with your private bank account money and don't get in trouble, that have gotten away with anything you can imagine, they think they can mess with Russia, just like Napoleon did, just like Hitler did. And even if you like Napoleon or Hitler, did it end well for them? Can you imagine if Russia had helped overthrow the Mexican government and was now claiming part of Texas belonged to them? How would you feel about that? That's what's happening, but they prey on people's ignorance. In fact, I knew it would happen. Now I'm hearing that Assad in the news is protecting ISIS, which is Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda in Syria, Al-Qaeda in Iraq merged to form ISIS and then IS. That's on record. Doesn't matter. They're saying, oh, we might have to take out Assad too, because he won't let us come in and take out ISIS. When ISIS was armed by the very same globalists. I mean, this is so evil. I want to hear from people that have lived in Ukraine, lived in Russia, or in Russia. I want to hear from contractors, U.S. military, people that have been stationed over there. What is your view? What is your angle on this? 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. I guess to be patriotic, I should just support 2 + 2 = 5. And I should support Obamacare, because I'm not racist. And everything is awesome. I should just support Fast and Furious. I should support Solyndra. I should support Benghazi whitewashes. I should support everything. And I should support nuclear war with the Russians. I mean, prove you're patriotic today. Join the military. Go fight the Russians. Did the Russians create a $1.5 trillion, $1.5 quadrillion global debt of fake derivatives and sign us onto it? No. Did the globalists run Enron scams and Bernie Madoff scams? No. Did the globalists in the last 5 years worldwide, except for Russia and a few other countries, they don't do it there, put satellite tracker boxes to tax and trace you by the mile in all the cars, which they're saying they want to start next year in pilot cities, San Francisco, Austin, and Minneapolis, St. Paul, and New York, all the places that are liberal and trendy, where being a schmuck is cool. They're going to start taxing us by the mile next year, the Department of Transportation has announced. And you know what? It's Putin's fault. If I fall on a banana peel, or if I'm bouldering in the Grand Canyon or bouldering in Big Bend and slip and tear my Achilles, I don't say a cuss word under my breath. I say, Vladimir Putin. If I slam my finger in the car door, I scream, Vladimir Putin. If I have a stomach ache, I scream, Vladimir Putin. And that's normal. But when something good happens, I go, Barack Obama. New World Order. Thank you. Ooh, thank you. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Toll-free number, 800-259-9231. UN calls emergency meeting on Ukraine crisis. Ukraine's president says Russian troops have been brought into Ukraine, calls for NATO aid, right as NATO tanks and armor show up in Ukraine. What would you do if NATO was moving troops into Ukraine and Poland right by your gas pipelines that you get all your money from? You would send in regular military. But see, that's why I'm a traitor. I should support the foreign banks that occupy my country, and they're going to sit this out in Switzerland or the Cayman Islands or wherever, starting a nuclear war. I mean, I'm just a bad person for not wanting a nuclear war. The Pentagon's been putting out lots of propaganda, I mean truth, about how we can survive a nuclear war, why it's like no big deal. Radiation's good for you. Just ask Ann Coulter. Russian and Ukrainian troops battle in the south, prompting fears that invasion has begun. This is not confirmed, but the Washington Post goes with the headline that Russian and Ukrainian troops are battling in southeast Ukraine with no evidence of it. They've put out some satellite photos. You know, I guess we got photos from the Gulf of Tonkin, too, that the Vietnamese attacked our ships. And the next time I'm going to hear, what are you for commies? Oh, yeah, I'm a big commie. That's right. No, I don't want nuclear war. I don't want to start fraudulent wars. Our global elite, that just 40-something years before the Gulf of Tonkin had put Lenin, V.I. Lenin, in charge of Russia, owned and ran Ford and General Motors plants, the biggest in the world, in Russia, producing hundreds of thousands of trucks a year for the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and missile launchers and tanks and weapons and SAM missiles. U.S. and globalist-owned factories all over Russia building the whole thing from 1917 right through World War II. And then suddenly, oh, we have a commie scare, so we have to take your rights to fight Stalin, while the factories and Arm & Hammer and Al Gore's dad, Senator Gore, sat on the board of it, shipping, and we weren't allowed to bomb the ships by the hundreds every week coming in to Hanoi Harbor. Going in there. I'm going to give you a big secret about Richard Nixon, and I should do a special report on this sometime. Because what's old is important. What's really old news and unknown, even though it's hiding in plain view, is important. Vietnam went on from 1959 until 1975. Officially 1964 to 1975. You know, our own military generals and others kept getting removed because they wanted to bomb the North. They wanted to bomb that harbor. They wanted to mine the harbor. And no one would let them do it. Because you had all this money being made from Russia and Europe and the U.S. companies sending all the armaments in to fight our troops. A perfect globalist war where you run both sides and make money and get power out of it and then destabilize the country and create a social movement you control based on socialism as the counter to war. How do you sell socialism and collectivism and political correct? You sell it against an illegal war so that it gives it the moral high ground. See, they don't want a Ron Paul who's a libertarian against war, or the John Birch Society that was against the war and got demonized in the 60s and 70s because they tried to stop it, because they had the insiders in the government that knew the truth. Oh, that's that right-wing crazy group. They're traitors that are commies. Yeah, the anti-commie group's commie because they didn't want, because they said our government's shipping all the weapons in. And then Richard Milhouse Nixon, for all his sins, he didn't get in trouble for spying on people or planning to stage a terror attack against himself to blame it on the Democrats. That's declassified. He didn't get in trouble for IRS files. He bombed the North, and he ran a bunch of different operations bombing the communists bringing weapons in out of other countries, Cambodia. And when he sent in B-52s to bomb the North, the impeachment process began. Do you understand that? And as soon as our military, it took them years to figure it out, went, we're not allowed to take the enemy out, the war ended because the morale ended because we wouldn't keep fighting because we knew it was a fraud. That's what the Al-Qaeda war is. That's what the war on drugs is. All these are fake wars where they bring the drugs in. They bring the Al-Qaeda in. They bring in the illegals in. They bring it all in and then watch the big fight that starts, and then they act like their savior's trying to start it. Trying to stop it when they're only trying to start the next leg of it. So that's why Nixon was removed, because he wanted to win. And I'm not lionizing Richard Milhouse Nixon. He went over and made deals with the communist Chinese who'd been put in power in '49 by his predecessors, Harry Truman. Can you believe our government and David Rockefeller, when Mao Zedong died, I think it was in 76 or 78, we've gone to the microfilm, got shots of it, it's in my film Endgame. He praised communism and bragged about why he supported putting Mao in the first place and how communism is the way to go in America.